Real quick, I want to do a little 0 to 60 run. This is a slight uphill, but you know what? Let's talk about what a slow car is. This is a slow car. It's slow. Slow. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'll take the 86 for a spin. I wanted to summarize what 4 years of this car has been like, kind of what my ownership experience is like, and if I recommend this car now and what I would recommend it for. So this is my 2022 GR86. Probably seen a bunch of videos about it. The only modification I have really is just the exhaust, the Borla S-Type. It's pretty loud at startup. Gotta let the idle come down. All right, now it kind of quiets down. So yeah, it's a Borla S-Type, and that's like the not crazy loud exhaust. And honestly, like after having had the Lotus with that exhaust for a while, this seems pretty tame. Yeah, it's really the only mod. I've done camber bolts too, just to kind of help out with tire wear at the track, and then when I do take it to the track, I do brake pads, but right now it's on the stock pads, which definitely aren't great, but they're fine enough for the street. But yeah, let's get on the road and I'll talk about my ownership experience. Okay, so before I get into it, I am very close to having 1,000 subscribers. So if you are the 1,000th subscriber, comment below. Let me know that you're the 1,000th subscriber and I'll pin it. I would really like to get over 1,000, and I think it unlocks some stuff with YouTube that kind of helps get visibility, the videos and whatnot. But yeah, so bottom line up front, I really like this car, but it's definitely like a beginner's sports car, for better or worse. But really, like, there's not much in the price point that you can get that's better than this. Like, and this feels like a more substantial car than like a Miata. If you could fit in a Miata, make it work with your lifestyle, they're both really good competitors, but this one is, I think, right out of the box, completely stock, is just like a great track car, whereas the Miata is a little soft. But I'm sure like you can get the club version of that. But anyway, so I first heard about this car, this version of the car, in 2021, like probably a bunch of you, and then December 21, put a deposit down. I had to wait until July for there to be a manual transmission premium in stock. Premium just comes with like the heated seats, slightly nicer interior, and yeah, I figured for a couple $1,000s more at the time it was worth it. Ended up, I wanted to get a white one, but Toyota doesn't really let you order a car, so they showed up with a red. I was like, screw it, take it. Out the door with Washington taxes, it was $35,000 in 2022. I think they've gone up a bit. And now you can get like Brembo packages and stuff, and some like limited edition body kits and whatnot. I'd say if you're gonna track this, you don't need the Brembos, because you can just get way cheaper brake pads, and I usually get like 4, maybe 5 track days out of a set of track pads. The smaller brakes brake just fine. It's just that they eat through brake pads a little bit faster because it's smaller. So what I did was I took some like these plastic brake ducts off of like a 997 GT3. You get them for like $8 a pop. Zip tied them to the lower control arms up front, and add a little bit of cooling. I saw other people like were posting like temperature differences like 50 degrees. I'd never really, hit it with a pyrometer, so I don't know. But they seem to be doing fine. I run what is it, Hawk DTC 60s, and I would maybe try like G-Lock R12s or something like that, like I have on the Lotus, and just see if there's any difference. But yeah, so I bought this for $35,000. I did paint protection film on the front and on the rockers and stuff because I knew I'd be tracking it. So far I have like no rock chips or anything. Have 11,300 miles of like, this is only a weekend car and track car. So like nothing about this is like commuting, like I only have this car for fun, so that's why it has like no miles on it. I think I put 1,000 miles of it on it last year, and like 500 or 600 of those were at the track. I just really drive this car for fun. So yeah, I did the PPF, and then that was, I think, like 2,400 bucks. And then I did ceramic coat on top of it, which brought it up to like, I think 3,200 or so. I don't recommend doing the ceramic coating unless you have no experience doing like paint correction and stuff yourself. Because like I've been doing that as like a side hustle for like a long time. I would 100% say not doing that, because the markup on ceramic coating is like 90%, and most of like the ceramic coating itself, you could DIY that at home for very little effort. It's really just the higher effort stuff is if you do the polishing and whatnot. And if you put PPF on it, any of those surfaces don't need to be polished out, because the glue on the PPF kind of fills in those micro swirls. So you only have to do what you're not PPFing. So it's kind of like a life hack for that is just get PPF, and then if you can have the ability to DIY some ceramic coating, just do that. It'll save you some money. Also, this is in the price bracket where you have to really do the math of, is it worth it to spend that much money? For me, I'm kind of like OCD about my car's finish, and when I do sell this, I would like it to be as in nice condition as possible, so I can maybe get top dollar back. And that kind of brings me into my next point of like, I don't recommend modding this car if you're gonna be going balls out on the track with it. It's fine to add boost if this is just gonna be your weekend driver, but if you're gonna be like really stringing this thing out, it runs hot, and it's a high compression engine. I think it's like 12-to-1 compression, so it's really dangerous to kind of like boost this. And Subaru engines are not known for their longevity and reliability once they've been modified. I'm sure this car would be fine for like 100,000, 150,000 miles of being like a track car if it was kept stock, and then you work your way around the Subaru shortcomings. So that's my 2 cents. I've ridden in a boosted GR86. My friend has a pro drift car with I think a Vortex supercharger, and it makes like 300-ish wheel horsepower, and I gotta say, it wasn't fast enough to be worth the extra. I think he put in like $20,000 or $30,000 worth of stuff because he was like sponsor supported, but at a minimum like 10, 15,000. It honestly, at that point, I don't know, just get like a Z, get a Supra, something like that. It's just, for what this car is, it's you know, momentum handling car, and it just didn't feel that much faster. And then you got to worry about things like supporting mods, heat soak, stress on your drivetrain, longevity, all of that stuff. I don't even run an oil cooler on this. I just went up to 5W30. I do I think it's like a half quart oil overfill, or maybe like a little bit more. Forget exactly what I do, but maybe I'll like write it down in the comment, in the text. But essentially, I just do the oil overfill. I check my oil often. That's something that you got to do with this car. Make sure that you're not burning oil, because there have been cases of people either burning oil, or like you have to replace your crush washer every time that you do an oil change. If you don't do that, it can leak, and then you can lose a lot of oil that way. So just like little things that you would take for granted, say with like a Toyota drivetrain, like in my Lotus, where it's like, set it, forget it, don't worry about it, it's Toyota. Subaru, it's like, it's okay, you know, they got most of it done right, but like you do got to read the manual, you do got to take care of your car. You know, it's not set it and forget it. They don't have the R&D budget of a giant company like Toyota or Honda. Subaru is a smaller company, you have to remember, even though they're pretty ubiquitous here in the BMW. So in terms of maintenance, I've just done oil changes. I've been doing them about once a year to like once every 3, maybe 4 track days. So I think it's kind of worked out to like, I think every 1,000 to 2,000 miles I've done an oil change, just because it's either 1 year or like multiple track days, something like that will come up. I've never been at like 3,000 miles or 5,000 been like, oh, I haven't already changed the oil by now. It's just, I don't drive this car enough, so I'm mostly time directed to do my oil changes. I also did a gearbox oil change. I used Redline oil, and I just like went by whatever was recommended of like the OE equivalent on the forums, and it seemed to get rid of that. Like I used to have like a little notchy grind into second gear now, and that was only when it was like cold, and now it's like not an issue at all. I also did diff oil in it just cause, and yeah, again, I think that was like Redline oil, and I just did that after, I don't know, 3 or 4 track days. I was like, this stuff's probably gross, and there was like some metal in it, so it was just nice to change that stuff out. It was cheap insurance. I did an air filter. I took out that particulate diaper thing that's built in. They're glued down to the airbox. Allegedly, that gives you a performance boost. It's not offered in some markets like Japan, so I was like, hey, there's no harm in removing this thing. It's just a little air sock that's a little restrictive, so I can get rid of this. And then I put in one of those like K&N style GR filters just when it was time to change the paper filter. Again, it costs like very little, so I kind of put one of those in each of my cars. And I am really glad too that I got the exhaust, because for me, having a sports car that you can hear is nice. I also unplugged that sound actor thing, or whatever it's called, the little like synthetic speaker that's in the glove box area. I hated that noise. It was just obnoxious. It's like having somebody constantly talking over you. Whereas at least this is like a natural sound coming from a natural part of the car, you know, the back. And it's just nice to have a car that kind of like echoes off the trees around you and stuff, and you kind of feel like you're driving a piece of machinery that turns explosions into power rather than having a video game simulation of it. So yeah, like other than that, I kind of accept this car for what it is. I think it's a really good platform for learning the dynamics of like a rear-wheel drive car. It's pretty light. I would say like the steering feel is pretty good on this. I mean, you're not really going to explore a car's steering feel on the street. That might be a hot take, but even like as a Lotus owner, I think I could say this, like that's the only car that I've ever had like, ooh yeah, that's real steering feel feedback on the street. Whereas like this car, like, and even my Focus ST, I think it has probably better steering feel than this, but it like it'll load up a bit and stuff, but like you got to be on the track, like on the limits, because you can hit limits on the street, like you can induce understeer. I think there's another car YouTuber that does like steering feel reviews, and I kind of cringe a little bit because I'm just like, man, you're like, you can hit limits, but you're not like really at the performance limit of the car on the street. You know, you gotta be like loaded up under braking or like full G load, because like I can just like hit sand and like wash out the tires, or just like totally take a corner wrong, like just on throttle, just make the front end light, induce understeer, and be like, this car handles like crap, steering is crap. But like I think the Lotus kind of wakes you up to that, because like you can induce understeer with a heavy front end or a light front end, and you will know exactly. And then I think going back into another car and noticing that, yeah, if some cars are boosted with their steering, the difference between like being loaded up and not loaded up might be a little bit more subtle in the steering, but it does have steering feel. Tangent aside, this car, like I said, it does handle pretty good. It's got, I feel like, enough power for the street. We'll make a pass here. Obviously, like on the highway, you're not going to be, you know, doing any highway pulls or anything like that. 230-ish horsepower, but it's satisfying, and it's got like real mid-range, but it doesn't have like a crescendo, like the Lotus. I'll keep going back to that. Is like, it almost feels like a turbo shove when it gets on second cam, and that revs up to 85, and like, you know, I know this is apples and oranges, but this just, it doesn't really have a character to it. It's like a flat plateau at, you know, of torque, which is fine, which is good, you know, from like, I don't know, 4,000 up to 7,000 or so. But it's like, it's never exciting, and then you're like, ooh, there's Redline, and it's like such a hard fuel cutoff that on the track, or if like you don't time your shifts perfectly, like it just feels like you're hitting a wall. there's no like soft limiter where it's just like cutting fuel delivery a little bit. It's like all your fuel's gone, hard wall. So I do appreciate those other characteristics of the engine. Like I don't think that this would be better with, I don't know, say like a K24 swap or something. I think that it's good to have a unique boxer engine with the lower center of gravity. I think that that's a cool platform. I just know it's like not as, you know, robust, and I know it really can't take boost, and it's kind of polarizing on the sound. I kind of like the sound. I think it's pretty good, especially with the exhaust. And then other than that, I do recommend getting some sort of camber bolts at a minimum, just because this car likes to wear the shoulders of the tire if you are loading it up for the track. But you really don't need to do any mods. I love the fact that this platform just is so well balanced and set up that I've learned so much about driving at the track. Like front engine, rear wheel drive, lightweight car, easy on consumables. It's such a perfect introduction. Even with, like, I just use stock tires. I don't even get anything higher grip. I think once you add more grip, then it'll exacerbate problems like oil starvation and whatnot. And like, what are you learning from that too? Like, you're sending it harder in corners, but you're not learning to manage grip, right? So like, I just want to work on my driver mod, not the car mod, and it's a lot cheaper to work on your driver mod. Brakes are one thing out of the box. Like they are capable of being great with good pads and fluid, but holy crap, the stock pads are awful, and I keep going back to them for the street just because like I'm cheap and they're fine, like you can work around them. But if you put it on a proper set of brake pads, you'll be like, oh yeah, I don't need like Brembos, I'm not missing anything. These stock pads just have horrible bite. And like the brake pedal, which is a good thing, is very firm. It's perfect for like what you want for like a brake pedal that you can heel and toe with, but it's not great when you don't have any bite from your pads. So if you feel like your brakes feel weak, just swap out the pads. And then I think out of the box it's like .3 fluid, which is basically dangerous. So I would recommend getting like a .5.1, or I use Castrol SRF just because you pay a little bit extra, but it's set it, forget it for 2 years, and it's just, you will never boil that fluid. Other than that, I think that kind of does it for generally, you know, my performance thoughts on this. Now I want to go into why I've been thinking that I'm kind of towards the end of my time with this car. I've been thinking about probably selling it next year. And that's just because like, it's a great car, but I bought this car with the intention of learning to like take cars to the track and growing with the car. And I'm in like a financial situation where I'm fortunate enough to be able to buy cars, but only if I don't sink money into them that I won't get back out of them. So like, I have to like be realistic about not putting mods and stuff, which in my mind is basically throwing away money into a car. That way my money in, money out is kind of mitigated between just like taxes, whatever I paid for like the PPF, you know, maintenance, service or whatever, and then the rest of it is just like very little depreciation, fortunately, for these cars. So I probably would sell this next year. That would be a 5-year ownership, and I imagine I could probably sell this for somewhere in the mid to high 20s. So all in, costing me somewhere about like $7,000-8,000 for 5 years of having like a track car, you know, not including consumables. And like, I kind of had that same mindset with the Lotus, where I'm just like, I go back and forth, where I'm just like, man, it would be really cool to put a blower on this Lotus and just have it be like a ridiculous monster of a car. And then I'm also like, but then all that reliability of having like, you know, a lightweight, easy to maintain Toyota based track car goes out the window, and it costs a lot more. Whereas like, I could sell that for more than I bought it for if I just keep it stock and just maintain it. So that's kind of my thought process. But yeah, so I don't want to modify this for financial reasons. And like I was saying earlier, it's kind of like I'm more focused on the driver mod type of thing. So I want to see if maybe I can go up in power without losing too much of what makes the rest of this car so much fun. So I've been thinking about an M2, like whether it's the F87 or a G87. I know that they're much heavier. I know that some people complain like, oh, they don't have the steering feel. I've driven both of them. I think that they are fine, nice, luxurious cars. This car does feel a bit cheap. That's one thing where it's like, I would like to have a car that I'm in my mid-30s. I'm going to be 34 this month. And it'd be nice to have a car that's not just like totally stripped out, you know? Granted, that being said, those things cost more than double what this does, so that's something to consider. And I would lose a lot more on that depreciation end if I did buy something like that, unless I got one like, you know, pretty well used. So I think that next year I'd probably sell this car. I also have a Focus ST. I'd probably sell that and like combine both of those plus a bunch of cash into, you know, my next car, whatever it is. Maybe it's not an M2. I've still been thinking about, you know, the Blackwing. It just doesn't seem as nice inside, and those, they really seem overpriced for what they are. If there's something else that I'm like missing and you'd like to recommend, I would just like something that is like a step beyond the GR86, but not go into the 4,000 pound area. It needs to have rear seats in it. I would like to have 400 plus horsepower. Manual transmission is a must. Rear wheel drive is a must. Trackability, less than 10 years old, I would say, and like something that I can maintain at home. I don't know if I'd want to go into like, you know, the V8 M3s or anything, or even like the previous gen M3s. I'm just like not really keen on that. Like the current and previous gen M2s is like the first BMW I was like, oh, these things are like really nice. Also, I've driven like Mustang and the GT350, and I was very close to buying a GT350. I test drove one a couple times, but then I'm just like, just not a Mustang guy, and like they're just such big cars. I guess it's like kind of tough when you know, buy a car like this and then go into something like that. And I actually recently drove a the current gen EcoBoost, because it was like a rental car, and that thing was so horrible. It was like one of the worst vehicles I'd driven. It was just gigantic, and it had a lot of torque, but it didn't have any manual inputs for the transmission. It was the 10-speed auto, constantly hunting gears, and everything felt like super cheap. But all right, I'll say some like negatives for this car. I've already talked about the brakes. Out of the box, this is like not a great ride. Granted, like I'm not wanting to throw any money at it to fix this, and it can be fixed, but the suspension on this is like bouncy stiff, and it's like not comfortable. It's also, this car is like super loud on the highway, which I think a lot of that comes down to the tires and just like not having a lot of sound and noise isolation. I did mention like sometimes when it was cold and the car was new, like it would grind gears like going into second, like a little bit, like very rarely, and that got fixed with transmission fluid. The paint on this car is like not great. Like my car is like pristine. It has, you know, no swirling on it or anything, but the paint is extremely soft. So you gotta be careful. I really wouldn't recommend, if you care about this car, I would not recommend leaving this car outside. Like anything will scratch this paint and like swirl it up. Definitely recommend PPF on the front end. They do chip like crazy. It's crazy because like the Lotus has like diamond like hard paint, and it's like great, and this car is like just butter in the sun. It's such soft paint. I think that a lot of the problems that you'll see on the forums are like really overblown. I think that the RTV issue is like a non-issue, because like the way that the oil pickup tube is shaped, you don't have to worry about like if there's a blockage at like the top of the tube, it kind of can suck from around the sides. And there's plenty of pictures of this oil pickup tube online, but basically don't worry about the RTV thing. It's much better to have a sealed oil pan than it is for you to try to DIY it, or have like a dealer or something DIY it, because you're just adding more RTV then into the situation that could also break it up, and then you also are potentially getting deniability from the dealer or a Toyota or whoever, you know, in case it does fail again. So I wouldn't worry about that. And then the only thing is I would probably just get that oil overfill if you're gonna be driving the car kind of hard. If you have the stock exhaust, it sounds like nothing. And I've heard that if you get the GR exhaust, it kind of drones, but it doesn't even sound as loud as this. So I think for the enjoyment, you know, 800 to $1,000 for the exhaust, if you could swing it, is worth it. It definitely like brings the car up to feeling more like a sports car. A lot of the cars nowadays are like pretty neutered in terms of sound. And yeah, it's just nice to have naturally aspirated car that just kind of sounds like a traditional sports car. Isn't crazy loud, it's fun. This sounds like or this feels like a car from like the 90s or something, just like brought to modern day with like, you know, you got your LCD displays and stuff. There's a little bit of annoyance with this screen, so I don't know if they've changed it subsequently because this is the 22, but like you can't change any of like the dials once you're in track mode, whereas like you can kind of see like tire pressure and stuff in real time when you're in, or like your G meter if you care about that in real time while you're in the normal mode. It would be nice to see tire pressures in real time without having to swap out traction control on and off, but whatever, it's not a big deal. You just change tire pressure when you stop at the track day. At low speed, like the throttle mapping is like diabolical. It is, I do not understand what was happening, and knowing Toyota, I think like they change something about this car like every year, and I'm sure that they've probably adjusted it over the years, but for this 2022, it is like very odd. At low speed, it gives you like, I don't know, like 70% like throttle opening at the first like 5 millimeters of travel, and so like you'll be trying to set off from a stop and the car will just be like bucking like crazy, and at that point you're like, it's actually smoother for me to just commit to full throttle than it is for me to try to come off like from a slow speed smoothly. And that's like one thing I noticed with this car is like the whole throttle tuning is basically like it gives you like 70% immediately of like throttle from like travel, and then it gives you 90%, and then flooring it does almost nothing unless you're already at like 5,000 plus RPM, if that makes sense. So it's like basically it tricks you into thinking, oh, this car is like super torquey because you're at half throttle, and it's like really giving it some throttle opening, but then you floor more and it doesn't go faster. And the only time that it gives you any more throttle opening is like if you're floored and like you're above 5,000, and then you just need that little bit more to get up to the top of the rev change. So it's like, it's a very weird dynamic. Like throttle opening is just not linear at all. And then I get in the Lotus, and the Lotus is literally just a cable linkage between your foot and like the actual throttle opening. So like that car is like so satisfying and it's nice, and it's like taking your order and giving you exactly what you want. And then it's like, this car is like, you just like, hey, I just want an appetizer. And it's like, best I could do is a Big Mac, boss. So it's very funny the way that this thing gives you that. And you can get used to it. It's just whenever I swap between cars, because I have a massive first world problem of having different cars, they all feel like totally different. Like the Focus is like ultra torquey, you know, boosted, but it's got like a pretty progressive pedal feel. The Lotus is NA, all top end, like perfectly linear throttle feel. And then this thing is NA, should have linear throttle feel, would be better for it, and it has like the most wackadoo throttle response I've ever felt in a car. And you can get used to it. It just like it'll make it jerky for setting off, it'll make it jerky and weird for heel toes, unless like you're like really concentrating. And then you just gotta kind of catch it with the clutch, like right, and just kind of time it a little bit. It's just like little nuance to that. Not a big deal. None of this stuff is deal breakers. But like your inputs in general are good. Like the pedal spacing is good. You don't need one of those pedal spacers to do heel towing. You just gotta, you know, driver mod yourself, and just like, unlike a lot of cars where you can unlike a lot of cars where you can kind of like brake with the ball of your foot and then just kind of like rock your toes over, and then that's how you like heel toe. This car, you actually have to take your foot and like pivot your heel out, or sometimes I hit it with like the left side of my foot and then like point my toes down like this, and either one of those will work. And you gotta be careful about your shoe selection. But yeah, it's just that you have to like kind of concentrate on where your feet are. I tried buying one of those pedal spacers. It did not work for me. It just felt like almost dangerous, how like weird it tried to move your feet around and stuff. So it's a great car for having the steering wheel in the middle, which is something that you shouldn't take for granted, and not having an offset, having your seat pointed straight ahead, having your seat at a decent height. It's pretty low actually, like you can get it pretty low. If you're at the track, I recommend putting the seat more like upright, just so that those bolsters can actually kind of hold you in. Like on the street, I'm a little bit more reclined, but you know, at the track, I would rather be upright and actually be held in. They're not great for that, but again, like it's still a street car at the end of the day, and if you don't have crazy grippy tires, you can manage. Anyway, I think that about sums up my feelings on this car. I think it is a good looking, fun to drive, back to basics car that will tick all of the boxes except for outright like torque and power and speed. But if you live in a place like I do, where it's a lot of like nice tight back roads and then momentum roads and stuff, it's pretty good. I just wouldn't want to take this on like a road trip with like big highway stretches or anything. I think that would just be exposing its limitations. And this is a perfect car if you're just looking to get into track days. You want something like modern, you don't want to deal with like, I don't know, a 30-year-old car or something. And then you want something that you could, you know, drive around, back roads, have fun with, has a warranty, take it to the track. Consumables will be cheap. It'll teach you everything you need to know about driving, and then you can see what you feel like you're missing from there, right? This is the vanilla blank slate car, and I don't mean that in a bad way. If you want to modify a car, sure, go ahead. I wouldn't recommend it for performance driving, but it's a platform that you can do that with, and there's a ton of support. You can make this car look, sound, feel, drive like anything you want. If you just want to be like me and just be like, how can I get a car for under $40,000 that me as a noob that knows nothing about track driving can learn to exploit 100% on the track within a couple of years? That's what I got out of this. And then I got into the Lotus, and it was like, oh, you don't know shit about driving. And now I'm like starting that all over again with a mid-engine lightweight car. And I've done like one proper track day on that, and I was like, my fastest time was the same as my fastest time ever in this, but I'm leaving so much time on the table. So I was just like, starting over again, perfect, this is exactly what I want. And yeah, from there you can decide, hey, like, do I want more power? Like, that's kind of where I am right now for a front engine rear wheel drive car. I want a little bit more power. And these things are in high enough demand that you can offload one without probably losing too much money. Yeah, so I think that about sums it up. This is a great car, but I don't know if I would call this a forever car, or at least not for me. And I think actually, on that note, I think that the forever car idea is a little bit dangerous, because I said that with my Focus ST when I got it. And sooner or later, you're like, that's been long enough. I probably shouldn't have called this a forever car, because cars start breaking down, costing more than they're worth. You don't drive them enough or whatever. And you know what, as car enthusiasts, we like changing our experiences up and you know, trying new things. So, you know, variety is the spice of life. Try different things. Yeah. Anyway, please subscribe if you haven't. If you made it to the end of this long rambling video, I have a track video coming up for the Lotus. I already recorded it. I just have been lazy about editing it. And yeah, leave a like, leave a comment on what you think I should buy and what you feel about the GR86, or did I throw shade of the Miata by not getting that, or think I'm an idiot and I don't know anything about cars, which guess tell me anyway. So anyway, I'll see you guys. Thank you for watching.